What if your limitation is a gift? By limitation, I mean all of the aspects or parts of us that are labeled or seen as a limitation. For example, my blindness, the condition of blindness be seen as a limitation, I'm sure, by many, or just a life circumstance that you're in. And just anything. It could be any health condition, any circumstance that is widely seen as a limitation that could either be by society, the mass general consensus, and the way we have developed to think in a limiting way. It could be passed down culturally, and it could be completely down to the environment that you're in and the belief systems of the people that are in that environment. So, seeing our limitation as a gift doesn't come easy because there are layers and layers and layers of limits that have been added to the condition or circumstance itself. Take blindness for an example. It's, like I said, seen as a huge shame or uh, something that's terrible that has happened to someone. And I give that as an example because that's from my personal experience. And well, how I've weaved myself out of that thinking hasn't been easy, but it's been possible with a bit of rewiring of my thought patterns and belief systems. So I see myself as having this condition as a gift sent from the universe, whatever you want to believe in, for example. And with it, I am sensitive. My other senses are so powerful, and my inner eye is so powerful. So it's given me a chance to adapt because I've had to relearn how to do basic things as I've navigated this world of sight in a different way. So it's helped me build resilience. It's helped me build strength and learn how to navigate complex situations across all aspects of life. My degenerative condition has opened my eyes up in a different way. And I think it's so easy to be carried away with what's on the surface. Like when I say to someone, I'm registered blind, an automatic reaction would be, or a response would be, oh, that's a shame. I'm so sorry about that. May God help you. Some of the comments that I get, which I know they mean well, but I think this comes from a place of fear from others. So they can't imagine having it themselves. So they project that fear onto the person they're speaking to because they think it's the worst thing in the world because they haven't gone through it themselves. But the truth is, when you do go through something yourself, you find ways to survive, to navigate, to find creative solutions, and it teaches you a lot. And it's not like we can avoid these things. Disability, or having a health condition can happen to anyone at any given time. And obviously, we can do things to prevent getting disease, but some things are out of our control. But that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world if something does happen, because we have our minds to work with and rewire these limiting patterns that feed into the body and each and every cell in our body, and can further be a detriment to ourselves if we think of ourselves in a negative, limiting way. So, yes, in some ways, I have limits because I am in a sighted world trying to navigate. But then I also have a lot of strengths, and I have learned how to find gratitude despite my darkest of days. And I mean that literally and physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I found and these solutions that I can go back to that thought if I do go through something challenging. Okay, so like I tell myself, okay, like you've been through this before, you've been through worse before, and you've got through that, so you can go through this, and you can find ways to navigate these situations and see in a different way. That's my gift. Although blinded by sight, physical sight, I have that opportunity to completely withdraw within and find creative ways to travel around the life and challenges and experiences that arise and surface. And yeah, so the challenge is, what if your limitation, in quotations, is your greatest gift? How can you use that as your gift? And how can you change that thinking of it being limiting into the opposite? How can we work with what we have? Because what we have is all we have at this present moment. And it takes courage, spontaneity, it takes creativity to work past this, work through this. But it's completely possible. And so often we fall into this conversation with our mind and others. And that seems to follow into topics of fixing what is broken. But is it the case that you're broken? Or is that society's projection onto you? Because I don't believe that I am broken. I believe that I am a missing part of a puzzle that has so much insight. So say if I'm a part of a puzzle, like just one piece of the bigger picture, and that piece has so much insight yet to learn and share and add to the bigger picture there. And yeah, I come across a lot of people, this happens quite a lot, like conversations that lead to, oh, is there no treatment for your condition? Oh, maybe one day like technology is improving, or yeah, there's ways to fix it. And that's very this fixing language around what is broken isn't very helpful or useful because then that person may think that they're broken. And if there actually is no treatment, which there isn't in my case, that will linger with someone in there and dig deep into their conscience, their subconscious, and stay with them, that belief that they are broken. So before we believe that we are broken or take in that messaging, oh, can it be fixed? Oh, that's a shame. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. See if you can create this force field around you that emanates, no, I'm not broken. I'm a gift to this world, to this society, and I've been sent here at this time specifically for this reason because I have a purpose, and my purpose may be related to this condition that I have, this circumstance that I'm in. And by expressing my pain, by expressing and finding outlets through different forms of creativity, I allow others to see that as I share, and I allow others to resonate with that maybe. And then they express their pain, and that may help them guide them on their journey of healing. And when I say healing, it's a very sort of abstract, big term. I don't mean healing what is broken. I mean healing in a way that is sustainable. I mean healing in a way that we can work with what we have. We can see beyond sight. We can sense beyond sensing and connect with source, with that higher vibration, come back to love, be reminded to come back to love and share that, emanate that from your heart, from your actions, from your behavior, from your work, which will inevitably ripple out from you. So before we believe that we are broken, I challenge you to see the gifts beyond the limitations that we put on ourselves and others put on us as well. So, what if your limitation was your greatest gift? What if your limitation was your greatest gift? And it's hard to see this when a lot of people I see on groups expressing their pain, but in a way that is looping in spirals and coming back to that same depressed state, I want to say, that same state of hopelessness. And it's really hard to come out of that spiral and be curious about what is outside of this loop. Because there is something outside of this loop. There's something beyond this pain. And I need to tap into that. I need to give myself space to tap into that. And sometimes that looks like asking for help from other people. Or sometimes that looks like synchronicities that come up. I can't pinpoint my recent synchronicities, but for example, if I'm feeling in a certain way that feels like I'm looping around the same thing again and again and again, I ask, Universe, please send me a sign. And it happens. And then I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And yeah, it's not about being perfect and normal in quotations. It's not about attaining that perfect life, whatever that is, because we are so far from that, I think, in today's modern world. The idea of perfectionism looks like earning lots of money, being in a big house, having a fast car, and being completely healthy. Not a lot of people have that, I don't think. And there's other bits added to that perfectionism photo frame, um, and that idea of happiness, which I think we're being sold as an illusion, and that's all tied in with capitalism and consumerism, that loop we find ourselves in, so that we essentially never feel satisfied because there's always going to be more and more and more and more and more things that are marketed to us to feed us that lie of this will make you happy, this holiday will make you happy, this house, this car, this thing will make you happy. But it's not the case. And my coming back to the limitation as your gift, I believe that because my eyes have been so shut off from seeing, it's allowed me space to tune in to how I'm feeling and be very in tune with all the sensitivities of that, of feeling, sensing, being, and seeing in a different way. So, how can you, could you see your limitation in quotations as your gift and challenge this illusion that we're fed that we need to be perfect? And how can we move beyond that into something higher that aligns with the highest truth in this moment, in this time, the highest truth that is aligned with the highest good for all? And how can we see in a different way past all of this fogginess, I want to call it, all of this blur and murkiness, these dark patches that I physically see. So what I see is gritty, patchy, and um, faded colours and less detail. What I see, I think, is truth to some extent, because this is how the world is. There's dark patches everywhere. Even the prettiest landscapes or the prettiest aesthetically looking things have the dark patches, have the darkness, the grittiness, the blurriness. We've attached ideas of happiness to things, to items, to idealist aesthetics. But are we just masking when we're, I don't know, going for beauty treatments on our faces that are filling wrinkles and stuff. We're not allowing ourselves to express our facial expressions, and that all those emotions get stuck in there. And as we keep masking and masking and masking, keep putting the makeup on, keep um, buying the next new phone, the next new car, the next new house, the next new promotion. What happens when we take all that away? Who are we without all of these things that are attached to us, to our identity? And who are we without the limitations that are imposed on us? Who are we without that label disability if we have a condition that is under that category? And is that term serving of us, disability? Does it not impose that we are, or suggest that we are disabled in our whole being, in our identity, and in our entirety? And is that okay? Why are we allowing that? So I am under the category disabled, blind, visually impaired. I'm okay with the word blind so people have context, but I'm not okay with the word disabled or visually impaired, insinuating that something looks wrong with me or is completely wrong with me, that I'm not abled. And that feeds into my cells, into my being, and breaks me down. And I'm sensitive to that, I know, and I can see that. So, how we speak to ourselves is very important. Changing the way we speak from a limiting way into a more empowering way. And how can we step into that more empowered self by firstly potentially starting with our languaging, our terminology that we use. So, how can we, or what if your limitation was your greatest gift? And what do you do with that? What if your limitation was your greatest gift? And can you see that?